Now come to the statements. Mr. Jarvis.
With your permission, Mr. Speaker, I would like to make a statement regarding 3 arrests that took place this morning as part of counter-terrorism policing investigation into suspected National Security Act offences. I can confirm that this relates to China. I can also confirm that this relates to foreign interference targeting UK democracy. Mr. Speaker, for reasons that you will understand, it would not be appropriate for me to comment on any aspect of what is now a live investigation. It is absolutely critical that we do not hamper the work of the police or prejudice any future legal processes by what we say in this House today. I would, however, point the House to what the counter-terrorism police have just said in their own statement, namely that this morning officers from counter-terrorism policing arrested 3 men as part of an investigation into suspected National Security Act 2023 offences. All 3 men were arrested on suspicion of assisting a foreign intelligence service contrary to Section 3 of the National Security Act. Of course, any decision as to whether to proceed with a prosecution would be a matter for the Crown Prosecution Service. Now, Mr. Speaker, this government stands resolute in our resolve to counter foreign interference activity targeting the UK from any state actor. The government has been consistent and unambiguous in our assessment that China presents a series of threats to the United Kingdom. We remain deeply concerned by an increasing pattern of covert activity from Chinese state-linked actors targeting UK democracy. This involves attempts to obtain information on UK policy making and interfere with our sovereign affairs. From the November MI5 espionage alert warning about Chinese intelligence officers targeting individuals with access to sensitive information on Parliament and government, to the attempted interference activities of Christine Leigh in 2022, this government will not tolerate it. And I can confirm to the House that British officials have formally démarched Chinese counterparts in London and Beijing about these allegations to raise our strong concerns. However, as this is a live investigation, it would not be appropriate to comment further. But let me be clear. If there is proven evidence of attempts by China to interfere with UK sovereign affairs, we will impose severe consequences and hold all actors involved to account. In the meantime, the government is taking robust action to ensure the UK's democratic institutions and processes are a hard target for this activity. The National Security Act provides our intelligence agencies and law enforcement with the modern legal tools they need to deter, detect and disrupt the full range of state threats. The action counter-terrorism police have been able to take this morning is an example that that legislation is working well. The political influence tier of the Foreign Interference Registration Scheme under the National Security Act also provides an essential framework for ensuring that those who seek to undermine our democracy are held to account. I also continue to drive across government the delivery of our counter-political interference and espionage action plan, which I announced to Parliament on the 18th of November. This is being coordinated in strong partnership with the parliamentary security authorities. Our aim is to forge a cross-party and whole-of-society shield to safeguard UK democracy. This includes strengthening our legal defences, cutting off channels for interference and supporting those on the front line of UK politics to recognise, resist and report the threat. Now, honourable members should have seen the guidance that the National Protective Security Authority and the National Cyber Security Centre published last year on what to look out for in terms of malicious foreign targeting and some basic steps that honourable members can take to protect themselves. I urge all members to read carefully through the guidance that was issued. If honourable members do experience any suspicious or out of the ordinary interactions, whether in person or online, they should report that to the Parliamentary Security Department. Now, the Government will continue to work in collaboration with the Parliamentary Security Department to set up a range of more tailored bespoke briefings for those who are at greatest risk. And in January, I joined the Director General of MI5 and the Chief Executive of the NCSC to brief the Chief Executives of the UK political parties on the developing threat picture. And I can confirm that officials are now focused on developing a programme of work to engage with the UK's think tanks and non-profit sector to discuss the threats that they face from foreign interference. Our intent is to work with them to strengthen their resilience, ensuring their hard-won reputations and networks are not exploited by our adversaries as platforms for covertly influencing UK public discourse and policy making. Mr. Speaker, in February, we introduced the Representation of the People Bill, which will further strengthen safeguards against foreign interference through political funding. Our proposed bill includes introducing tougher rules for donor recipients to conduct risk assessments before accepting donations, as well as increasing the powers of the Electoral Commission to ensure that it has the tools necessary to fulfil its duties. And the Government eagerly awaits the report of Philip Rycroft, following his independent review of regulations and safeguards against foreign financial interference in UK politics. The review was commissioned to rigorously test the financial safeguards we currently have in place and will specifically consider safeguards against illicit funding streams, including the use of crypto assets. The review findings will be delivered to the Secretary of State for Housing, Communities and Local Government and myself by the end of this month, and I can confirm that recommendations, where appropriate, will inform the Representation of the People Bill. We are also working on new powers to counter foreign interference, including a prescription-style tool to disrupt proxy organisations undermining our security. Mr. Speaker, it continues to be in our long-term strategic interest to engage with China. We are engaging with China confidently and pragmatically on areas where engagement is in the UK's national interest: climate, global health, trade, scientific research, but also on illegal migration and serious organised crime, just to name a few areas. But let me be crystal clear. This is not a question of balancing economic and security considerations. We don't trade off security for economic access. Instead, by taking tough steps to keep us secure, we enable ourselves to cooperate in other areas. And we will always challenge any country, including China, that attempts to interfere with or undermine the integrity of our democratic institutions. And we will always prioritise UK national security. That is why the Prime Minister's visit opened up a direct channel of communication to deliver in the national interest, enabling us to raise frank concerns about activities that impact our national security at the most senior levels of the Chinese system, including on domestic security issues. Mr. Speaker, I can assure members of this House and the public that further steps can and absolutely will be taken to defend our democracy. The Government is steadfast in our commitment to disrupting and deterring China's interference activity wherever it takes place. I commend this statement to the House.
Order. I'm sure we'll appreciate the fact that the Minister has come to the House at the earliest opportunity to provide an update on these serious issues. As there is now a live police investigation, members should exercise caution in saying anything that risks or prejudicing that investigation. But I thought it was important that the House, and I've got to thank the Minister who went through this to get it on at the earliest possible time. Sir Secretary of State, Alex Burghart.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the Minister for advance sight of his statement, and I do appreciate the speed with which he's come to the House today. But, Mr. Speaker, here we are again. Another year, another Chinese spy scandal. And the backdrop to it is this government's failed policy of appeasement. The government must now, surely, be coming to the realisation that unless the United Kingdom stands up to these threats, our country will continue to be treated with disdain. We watched how the government allowed the Chinese spy case involving members of this House to collapse. We watched as, despite the interference in our democracy, the government approved the Chinese mega-embassy in London. And we watched as the Prime Minister went to Beijing, cap in hand, begging for trade deals to mitigate the costs of his own disastrous economic policy. We in this House watched as these things happened, and the Chinese state watched too, and saw that it could act with impunity. And the Minister says that there is no trade-off between democracy, our democratic and national interests and security interests and our economic interests. But I'm afraid that is exactly what has happened. Now, I do understand the Minister will be unable to say very much about the new case, but I think we all know what we're dealing with here. So I hope he will be clear about what the government's response is going to be. And I hope he will talk a little bit about whether this case touches on members in this House. Because whilst we've been here, the BBC and The Guardian have reported that one of those arrested is the spouse of a sitting Labour MP, and that another is the spouse of a former Labour MP. Given that this is being reported in the press, will the Minister confirm whether or not this is true? Will he also give a cast-iron guarantee to this House that the government will do everything in its power to prevent this case from collapsing? We have seen this show before. Will he promise that, unlike last time, the Chinese ambassador will be summoned by ministers and told that aggressive interference in our country and its democracy will no longer be tolerated? And will he, actually, Mr. Speaker, I should say how right you were to deny that ambassador access to this House? Will he also commit to placing China now on the enhanced tier of foreign influence registration? The Minister says that China presents a series of threats, but during the last spy scandal, the government refused to say the crucial words, that China posed a risk to our national security, and they wouldn't publicly accept that China was opposed or hostile to the interests of the United Kingdom. Can he really accept that can he now accept that this position is no longer tenable? The Minister says that if there is proven evidence of attempts by China to interfere with UK sovereign affairs, the government will impose severe consequences and hold all actors involved to account. Look, we sincerely hope that this is true. But it wasn't true last time, Mr. Speaker. And so here we are again. And we will, unless this government finally steps up, be back here time and time again.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, can I thank the honourable gentleman for his response? I mean, I'm grateful to him for acknowledging the speed at which the government has sought to brought forward a statement. And I know that he and right honourable and honourable members will understand that there are very strict limitations in terms of what I can say about what is obviously now a live police investigation. But let me also say that I hope I speak for all sides of the House when I say that these are the most serious matters that require us as a House to put the protection of our democracy above any political point scoring, and that is the way in which we should approach these proceedings. Now, he's sought, for reasons that I understand, to critique the government's position, and I understand why he sought to do that. But I can say to him that I am confident in the government's response to this incident and to our wider agenda on countering political interference. But of course, it is right that members from across this House have the opportunity to scrutinise government policy and to ask questions. And that is precisely why we've moved at pace to provide an opportunity for them to do so. I also want to give the member opposite and other right honourable and honourable members a guarantee that, given the sensitivity of these issues and the obvious need to protect the operational activity of our police and the security services, we will look for other opportunities to provide appropriate briefings to the relevant members across this House, by the relevant experts to ensure that they can be updated in a way that we are simply not able to do in this House. Now, the Honourable Gentleman did raise a number of questions, and I know that he will understand that there are strict limitations in terms of what I can say. But let me give him an assurance of the seriousness with which we take these matters. I've always believed that the work that takes place, led by government but across this House to defend our democracy, should be a shared endeavour. The Defending Democracy Task Force was an initiative brought forward by the previous government. This government has invested in it. It is the fulcrum point by which we coordinate activity across government and with law enforcement partners, working very closely with Mr. Speaker and the parliamentary security authorities here in the House to ensure that our elected representatives are properly protected against the threats that we face. And I give him an assurance of the government's absolute determination to stand with all members to ensure that they are properly protected. Now, he knows, because we've had these exchanges on numerous occasions, that matters relating to prosecutions are very specifically matters for the Crown Prosecution Service. And it isn't for ministers from the dispatch box to opine and to make judgments on them, because the CPS is rightly independent of government. But he does know, as do other honourable members, how extremely disappointed the government were that the trial in last autumn did not proceed. Clearly, as he will understand, there is a crucial difference in that charges in that particular case had been brought forward under the Official Secrets Act of 1911. But I am confident that the National Security Act of 2023 provides the robust legislation that we need to address the threats that we undoubtedly face. The Honourable Member mentioned FIRS, and I understand why he decided to do so. FIRS is an important capability that comes from the National Security Act. It is still a relatively new tool, and we're seeking to ensure that we are able to derive the maximum capability, the operational capability from it. But I can say to him that we haven't made any final decisions as to whether we will be placing other countries on the enhanced tier, but we keep that under very close review. Mr. Speaker, as I've made clear, this government will simply not tolerate attempts to interfere in our democracy. We've already taken tough action to strengthen our defences against foreign interference, and we will not hesitate to take further steps where they are necessary.
Mark Weston, Chair of the National Joint Security Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and can I thank the Minister for his immediate update to the House, given the recency of this breaking news. He'll know, of course, that the Joint Committee on National Security Strategy did its report into the case of Cash and Berry and made certain recommendations. Of course, the 2023 Act is now fully in place, which, of course, was post the original Act undertaken allegedly by Cash and Berry. But would he agree with me that with the essence of the grain of rice strategy pursued by China, that we're going to see many, many more cases, potentially such as this, where there is this evidence, intelligence gathering undertaken by the Chinese, and as they seek to undermine our democracy and political system?
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm grateful to him and his committee for the important work that they do, and I'm very grateful for the report that they published, and he will have seen the comprehensive response that he got from the government. Let me say to my honourable friend, Mr. Speaker, that what we want to do and what we are doing is ensuring that the United Kingdom is the hardest possible target to those who would seek to interfere in our democracy. That is why we are investing in the processes of the Defending Democracy Task Force. That is why we commissioned the Rycroft Review. That is why I announced the Counter-Political Espionage Action Plan. There is a lot of work taking place across government, working with law enforcement to ensure that we are protecting our institutions and our elected representatives. I convey, I hope, to him and to the House the seriousness with which we take these matters, but I want this to be a shared endeavour working with parliamentarians of all colours. This affects us all, but the government is working at pace to stand against that threat.
Lisa Smart, Liberal Democrat spokesperson.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the Minister for advanced sight of the statement, even if at this stage he's rather limited in what he's been able to say. He's entirely right, though, that we must continue to allow the police to do their job and to do it well. We remain grateful to all of those who are working to keep our country safe both here in the UK and abroad, and it is essential we defend our country, our democracy, including through a robust response by counter-terrorist police. The arrests this morning highlight the continued reach of foreign interference in the UK, whether it's spying in its raw sense or the pervasive and persuasive influence of foreign money in our politics. The government could be doing more to put an end to the clout of foreign money in our democracy. And there's an opportunity to limit the influence of foreign money through the Representation of the People Bill. But a spotlight on corruption has made clear provisions in the bill as it stands, looking at company revenue rather than profit, can be easily exploited and far too easily gamed to allow foreign money in, and this must stop. The Security Minister mentions the Foreign Influence Registration Scheme in his statement, but, and not for the first time, Mr Speaker, wasn't able to mention any plans he has to add China to the enhanced tier. Yep. How many times must we all come to this House to hear a report of further rounds of arrests under counter-terrorism legislation for this government to take this action? Does the government plan to review its decision to allow the building of the Chinese mega embassy? And will the government go further to stop foreign money being funnelled into our democracy, including an absolute donation cap and a ban on those who have worked for foreign regimes from making donations at all?
Well, Mr Speaker, I'm grateful to her, and let me take the opportunity on behalf, I'm sure, of all members in this House to thank those for the vital work that they do to keep our country safe. They are the best of us, and our national security is underpinned by their endeavours. She raised, I think, 3 important points. She's right to raise concerns about foreign money in our politics. The government does take these concerns incredibly seriously. It's precisely why we've commissioned Philip Rycroft to conduct at pace an independent review into this issue. Now, she may be aware that we debated these matters in Westminster Hall just a couple of weeks ago. I encouraged her party colleague to make formal representations to Mr Rycroft. I'm grateful for her confirmation that they've done that. That is very much appreciated, because this is an important body of work that will provide recommendations to the Secretary of State for MHCLG and myself in the next couple of weeks in time to inform the representation of the People's Bill. So this is a very timely piece of work and a very good opportunity to ensure that that bill provides the protections that I think collectively we want it to. She mentioned FIRS, and I understand again why she does so. FIRS is a useful tool, but it is still a new tool, and we are working to make sure that it provides the maximum operational capability, and we're looking very carefully at how we can use it to best effect. She also mentioned the embassy. Again, I understand why she does. So she knows the government's position with regard to the embassy. Again, I'm a bit limited in terms of what I can say about that because of ongoing legal proceedings, but I refer her to the remarks that I made previously. There is a strong national security case for the embassy. She will have noted, I know, the letter that was sent to government from the Director Generals of MI5 and GCHQ, and I am confident that that is the right thing to be doing.
Barros-Curtis.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker, and I want to thank the Security Minister for his statement and for all the work he does on the Defending Democracy Task Force. And put on record my thanks to the law enforcement authorities, national security agencies and so on. From what I've read online, Mr Speaker, one of the arrests that took place today took place in my constituency. So given that, that I understand my constituents will obviously be concerned to hear that, I wonder what the Security Minister can say to reassure me and my constituents that the police and all relevant authorities have the relevant resources they need to keep them safe and keep our democracy safe. And given, if I'm right to assume what I've read online is correct, would he meet with me at the earliest opportunity in order to discuss this further?
Well, Mr Speaker, I'm grateful to the honourable member. On countless occasions, he's raised important points with regard to our democracy, and I'm grateful to him again for doing so today. I can give him the assurances that he seeks, that the police do have the resources they need to do a difficult and complicated job. And of course, I'd be happy to meet with him at the earliest available opportunity.
Father House, Sir Edward Leigh.
The Chinese only represent strength, and for them everything is transactional. So I think the country would rejoice if the government summoned in the Chinese ambassador and said this to him: this sort of behaviour is intolerable. You cannot build this mega embassy in just about the most sensitive site in London while you behave like this. I'm not asking about what MI5, MI6 said. This is transactional. You know, treat British nationals like Jimmy Leigh properly. Don't spy on us. Otherwise, we're going to pause this embassy until you learn to behave.
Mr. Speaker, I'm grateful to the Father of the House. I think he will have heard my introductory remarks where I was clear that Chinese officials have been démarched both here in London and in Beijing. He talks about the transactional nature of the relationship. I hope that he would accept that this government has to and does act in the national interest. There are absolutely areas where we need to cooperate with China, and I referenced some of them, but that does also include some areas within the law enforcement space, whether that is illegal migration, whether that is serious organised crime, whether that is narcotics trafficking. So I honestly think it would be naive of anyone, and I'm certainly not saying that the Father of the House was putting forward this view, but it would be naive of anyone to say that we shouldn't be having some kind of functional working relationship with China. But as I was crystal clear in my opening remarks, national security is the first priority of this government, and we will do everything we need to do to safeguard our country and safeguard our democracy.
Speaker, the conflict in Iran is deeply concerning, and I was glad to see that the government's flights are set to leave the Middle East tonight. What more can myself and my colleagues do to protect the safety of those stuck in the region and from bad faith actors?
I'm not quite sure it's relevant. Karen Bradley.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Given the vulnerabilities of members of Parliament, can I urge the Security Minister to work with the parliamentary authorities to not just pass information to members of Parliament, but work proactively with members of Parliament to make sure we are all aware of the risks that are posed to us and the steps that we need to take to ensure that we are not exposed to interference from foreign states?
Yeah.
Mr. Speaker, the Chair of the Select Committee is absolutely right. I hope that she understands the seriousness with which we take these matters. I spend a lot of time working with the Defending Democracy Task Force to ensure that we've got the protections in place that we need. That isn't just about elections, it's about our democracy on an enduring basis. The relationship with this House and with Mr. Speaker, and I know that honourable members know how seriously Mr. Speaker takes these matters, is a close working relationship. I will always make myself available to talk to colleagues about any matter of concern that they might have. There has been quite a significant amount of guidance that's been issued over the last few months. I really would encourage members of this and the other House to engage with the materials that have been published, but where they have further concerns, to raise them through the Parliamentary Security Department and with myself.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank the Minister for his update on this difficult case. Now, in his statement, he did confirm that the government is working on a prescription-style tool to disrupt proxy organisations undermining our security, quoting from the statement there. When will this tool be ready? And does it include the recommendations set out by Jonathan Hall?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm grateful to the honourable member, and I think he raised this matter with the Foreign Secretary just yesterday, and he's right to do so. He will know that the government commissioned Jonathan Hall to look at the legislative framework, given the concerns that we had that there wasn't an appropriate legislative tool to prescribe a state-backed organisation. Mr. Hall has made a number of recommendations, all of which have been accepted by the government. He will understand that I'm not able to talk, and I'm conscious that the Leader of the House is sat here, and he will not expect me to talk about matters relating to parliamentary business. But I can give him the assurances that he seeks, that the government is seeking to deliver this tool, and we would seek to bring forward legislation at the earliest available opportunity.
Jeremy Wright.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. As I hope the Minister would accept, the last trial of those accused of alleged espionage on behalf of China founded, to put it at its mildest, because of a lack of shared understanding between the Crown Prosecution Service and the government about the evidence the government could properly submit in support of that prosecution. I don't expect him to comment about the specifics of this case, but would he accept that it would be sensible for the government now to ensure that as this matter develops,
There is no such misunderstanding that occurs, and the relationship between the CPS and the government is in the right place to ensure that evidential conversations are held early rather than late. And finally, would he accept that it would be sensible for the Intelligence and Security Committee to be kept up to date as this matter develops, given that we meet in private and the risks of prejudicing future prosecutions are lower in our case?
Well, I'm very grateful to the Right Honourable Member, and I share much of the analysis that he's brought forward. Misunderstandings are never helpful, and under these circumstances, above all else, we will make sure that there are no misunderstandings. He knows the disappointment that is felt across government and within the agencies and law enforcement in terms of where we got to back in the autumn. And of course, I give him an absolute assurance and commitment that we'll do everything that we need to do to make sure that the CPS are able to make a judgment, but as he will understand, that has to be independent of government. In terms of his point about the ISC, I think he's absolutely right about that. And he will understand that events have moved incredibly quickly this morning, and we'll want to take a moment later today to reflect on what needs to happen next. But I give him an absolute assurance that we want to work closely with the ISC as part of that process.
Peter Dowd.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank the Minister for the update, and I welcome progress made on the counter-political interference and espionage plan. So given that, would the Minister return to the House as appropriate to give us further updates on that plan?
Well, I'm very grateful to him. The counter-espionage interference plan draws together numerous important strands of activity across government, and it makes sure that all of that work is properly coordinated, and we take that very seriously. I absolutely give him the assurance that he seeks, and I also give him an assurance that we will do it at the earliest available opportunity. But should he or any other members have concerns in the meantime, I'd be very happy to speak to them.
Edward Morella.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to praise the work of our police, security and intelligence services in this case. I thank the Minister for his statement. Like him, I look forward to the publication of the Right-Left report that the Foreign Affairs Committee in evidence have heard from the Electoral Commission, and the National Security Strategy Committee has also heard from them. I wonder if the government will consider new clauses to the Representation of the People Bill to widen and strengthen the powers of the Electoral Commission, and importantly provide the necessary funding so that they can properly defend our democracy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. All of the points that the Honourable Gentleman makes are entirely sound and reasonable. He will understand that we need to wait for the Rycroft review to report. I expect that to be in just a couple of weeks. We've very deliberately sequenced it so that it can make recommendations in order to inform the Representation of the People's Bill. He knows, I think, from previous contact that we've had through the committee, that these are matters that we take very seriously, and we will want to make sure that we've got all of the safeguards we need. I'm grateful for the confirmation earlier on from his frontbench spokesman that his party has engaged with that process, and I'd be very happy to discuss it further with them.
Chris Mitts.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I thank my honourable and gallant friend for the work he does to ensure that our country and our democracy stays safe, both in his current role and also in his previous career as well. Mr. Speaker, you will be aware that democracy only happens in this place because of the House staff and also our MP staff that make a huge difference to us and make sure that we can do the job that we do. Can I ask the Minister how he's going to ensure that he can protect MP staff and House staff to ensure that they get that security as well?
Well, Mr. Speaker, can I thank the Honourable Gentleman for his question? He's developed something of a knack of finding a really good question that I think most people will have in their mind. I can give him the assurances that we seek. It's important not only do we ensure that the protections are in place for our elected representatives, for those who step forward to serve in this House and in other places, but also their staff who work so hard and so diligently to serve them. There is a lot of work that still we have to do. That is work that will be led here by Mr. Speaker and the Parliamentary Security Department, but the government works very closely alongside to make sure that they've got the support that they need.
Dr. Andrew Morrison.
The Minister spoke of severe consequences. Would he outline what those severe consequences might be, and understand that Beijing is unlikely to take that terribly seriously, given what has happened in the recent past? And will the severe consequences include putting on pause, on hold, plan for the Chinese super embassy and spy centre pending the outcome of the Met's investigation?
Yeah, why not? On hold.
Well, the right honourable gentleman, who is a very experienced member of this House, will know that given that we are referring to events that took place just a couple of hours ago, it would be unwise of me to get into further detail. I would just point him to the number of things that I've already referred to in terms of our response to the threats that we faced over the last number of months. He knows, I hope, how seriously we take these matters. He and I don't agree on the issue with regard to the embassy, but I would say to him, as I've said to other honourable members, that there is a clear national security case for the embassy proposal. The Director Generals of two of the security services have been clear about the national security advantages, as have I. This government will do everything we need to do to protect our country, our national security and this place. He knows there's a lot that I can't say about what we're intending to do, but let me be crystal clear. Where there are malign actors, whoever they may be, who seek to undermine our democracy, there will be consequences.
Luke Charters.
Speaker, I recently visited the Defence Intelligence Academy recently with the Armed Forces Parliamentary Scheme, and I saw firsthand how our intelligence services are the best in the business. And the government should be praised for increasing the SIA in real terms. Will he commit to keeping the single intelligence account under review, given the increasing threats around political interference and the threats of state-sponsored terrorism from Iran?
The honourable gentleman makes a very important point about the SIA. And he's right. This government has ensured that our intelligence services have access to the resources they need in what is a very difficult and challenging world. I give him and the House an assurance that should there be a requirement for additional support, this government will always make sure that both our police and our intelligence services have the resources they need to do the very difficult job that we ask them to do.
Ms. Law.
The government will be well aware that through the United Front, the Chinese Communist Party has created a global network of individuals and organisations that act as a political weapon to isolate, neutralise or counter Beijing's critics. Indeed, a recent report, which I have in my hand here, published this month from the Jamestown Foundation, has shown that the UK is one of the top 4 exposed countries to this, with over 400, Mr Speaker, 400 United Front-linked organisations identified. Therefore, why is the government still repeatedly refusing to take the necessary action to protect the nations of these islands by placing China on the enhanced tier of the Foreign Influence Registration Scheme? It may be new, but if it's going to be useful, it needs to be used.
Well, I'm grateful to him. I mean, he does make some important points. He will have heard what I've said previously about FIRS. FIRS is an important capability, and we need to make sure that it's deployed in the right way. But I say to him that there are a number of measures that we have brought forward in recent months to seek to ensure that the United Kingdom is the hardest possible operating environment for those who would seek to undermine our democracy. There are lots of things that we're doing that I'm not able to talk about, but I give him an assurance that we're taking these matters incredibly seriously and we will do everything that we need to do.
Speaker, the Minister will know I've raised my concerns about foreign interference from Russia, from China on many occasions, and today's events really underlines why that's so important. That's why I welcome the Rycroft review. It is fundamentally important that we get to the bottom of foreign interference in our politics. My only concern is that because the Rycroft review is specifically looking at financial interference, it may not have the scope to get the full facts of the matter. So if that does prove to be the case, will the Minister commit to doing everything in his power to make sure that we have further work on this so we do know the full extent of foreign interference in our democracy, in our elections and in this place?
Well, Mr Speaker, he's right to raise this and he's consistently done so. I do think that the Rycroft review provides a very important opportunity to stocktake these threats and challenges and work out how best we are going to respond. But I absolutely give him the assurance that he seeks, that if there are measures not contained within the review, and I wouldn't want to prejudge it, of course, we will keep an open mind about what more we need to do. We do have a number of powers already that we need to make sure that we're using to maximum effect. But where there is a requirement for new legislation, new powers or additional resources, we won't hesitate to bring them forward.
Dr. Kieran Mullen.
As the Minister has said, at the heart of this is the question of whether our enemies and malign actors fear the consequences of hostile acts against us, which is why many of us say that the embassy should be paused. But why would the Chinese be worried about consequences to spying when this week another malign actor attempted to kill British armed forces personnel, attacked sovereign territory and suffered no consequences? What lessons does the Minister think China will take from our failure to defend our own territory from military attack?
Well, the honourable gentleman has raised his concerns and he's entitled to do so. I do think it was important, and many would not necessarily agree with this, that the Prime Minister went to China in order to have frank conversations relating to our national security. People should understand that if they seek to commit criminal acts or to undermine our democracy or attack our country or undermine our democracy, there will be consequences, and this government will make sure that this is the hardest operating environment.
Richard Tice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I recently made a submission to the Rycroft Review about my concerns about Chinese communist regime influence on the Labour Party. The Minister will understand, given that we now understand that the partner of a sitting Labour MP and the partner of a former Labour MP have been arrested today, the Minister will understand why I shall be updating that review ahead of my meeting with the Rycroft Review next week. Could the Minister confirm whether or not the Rycroft Review can take account of these arrests, or whether it will need to be extended until charges are not made?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm very grateful to the honourable gentleman that he's taken the opportunity to contribute to the Rycroft Review, not least because he and a number of his colleagues have an expert insight into the consequences of foreign interference. And I hope he's very much taken the opportunity to reflect on that and to feed that into the review. The review itself, of course, is being conducted independently by Philip Rycroft. He will report by the end of this month, which means, and of course it is independent, there is absolutely time and space for him to reflect on any events that have taken place recently. This is an important piece of work and it will inform government policy, not least in terms of cracking down on some of the foreign money, well, all of the foreign money that should not be in our politics. Again, it's a matter that honourable members in his party know quite a bit about.
Mr.
Speaker, China is a risk and we've got so much evidence of that. But despite this, the Secretary of State for Energy Security has signed an energy deal with China, which gives them cooperation with us on batteries, on offshore wind, on cables, on inverters. It effectively gives them access to our energy grid, and this is a massive risk. As Security Minister, was he consulted by the Secretary of State for Energy Security about this deal before it was signed?
She raises an important point, Mr. Speaker. I can give her and the House the assurances that we've got checks and balances in place to ensure that decisions such as the ones that she's referred to are made in a way that enables our continued national security. We work collaboratively across government. It is a system that we inherited from the previous government, but we will do everything that we can to make sure that we are taking informed judgments. Where it's appropriate to take judgments that will aid economic advantage, of course we will do so. But underpinning all of that will be decisions to ensure that we make sure that nothing undermines our national security.
Luke Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm sure I join all colleagues in this chamber to share my shock at the news this morning, but also the disgust at the news that the Chinese state had targeted the partners of sitting and former MPs. So, from a personal perspective, can I ask that the Government and the Minister ensures that those who are affected are supported for this utterly outrageous targeting of those closest to them? But turning to the practicalities of what that may imply, can he reassure us all around the chamber that if through the inquiries any suggestion that information was accessed through a sitting or former MP that may well have affected the decision-making of the government, particularly towards the Chinese embassy, that decision will be paused, will be reviewed and potentially reversed?
Well, Mr Speaker, I know that the Honourable Gentleman understands that I can't comment about the specifics relating to individuals. I can say to him that, along with the Director General of MI5, I briefed the chief executives of political parties here in the UK just recently, including his own party. One of the points that was made at that briefing is that people who are involved in politics shouldn't make a view that it is only people who serve in government or in particular kind of positions of authority and responsibility who are a target. All of those who are involved in the wider political ecosystem are in play here, and that is an important message for people in this and outside of this place to understand. I'm grateful for the other point that he made. He knows the government's position with regard to the embassy. There's nothing more I can say about that now.
Dr. Neil Shastri. Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. And I know how seriously the Minister takes national security, and he will feel keenly any interference with our democracy. But the 4,500 Hong Kongers who live in the borough of Solihull will take cold comfort from the words that officials have been demarched. Can the Minister guarantee that the Chinese ambassador to the UK will be summoned by the Foreign Secretary for an interview without coffee?
Well, I'm grateful to him, and he's right. I do take these things incredibly seriously, and I'm grateful to the point he made about Hong Kongers in his constituency. I mean, I can say to him that I have personally raised concerns regarding the arrest warrants and bounties directly with Chinese authorities, and he will have heard the remarks that I made earlier on with regard to officials being démarched. The Hong Kongers have an important role and play an important contribution in our country. He knows the government's position with regard to transnational repression. A lot of work has taken place through the Defending Democracy Task Force to make sure that people are and feel like they're protected. If he thinks there's more we should be doing, I'd always be very happy to discuss it with him.
Let's all right.
Right. It's a source of concern that 2 of the 3 men arrested were arrested in Wales, and that they have close associations with the Labour Party. Given that the Senedd goes to the polls in just over 2 months, in the shadow, of course, of the Nathan Gill scandal, what support is to be given to the Electoral Commission to ensure that there are sufficient resources to safeguard those elections against the growing threat of foreign interference?
Well, she's right to raise the importance of the work that the Electoral Commission do. They are a key member of the Defending Democracy Task Force, and we work very closely to make sure that they've got the powers that they need to do the difficult job that's asked of them. She will understand, obviously, that the Rycroft Review and the representation of the People's Bill will not provide legislative change in advance of elections that are taking place in May, which is precisely why we're working very closely with the devolved institutions, and we will be having further contact with them over the coming weeks in order to ensure that the important elections that are taking place around the country in May take place in a fair and free environment. That's what we all want to see.
Mr Speaker, can the Security Minister confirm whether the partner of the sitting Labour MP arrested on espionage charges of spying for China had a parliamentary pass?
Well, I'm disappointed that the Honourable Gentleman didn't ask me about furs, because he's consistently done so, and I always enjoy our exchanges. He will understand I have come here at extremely short notice in order to provide an update to the House. I can't get into the operational details of matters that took place just a few hours ago.
Just to reassure you, the answer is no. Carl Locker.
Speaker, the Minister has said numerous times that the Government always prioritise UK national security. Those words ring hollow whenever we think of the Chinese embassy and the fact that this Government has granted a mega embassy close to underground cables carrying highly sensitive data. Surely, in light of these highly concerning developments, this Government should actually show courage, strength and leadership, and with immediate effect revoke the decision in the interest of national security.
With great respect to the Honourable Lady, and I always listen very carefully to what she has to say, because she represents a part of the United Kingdom that I have a long-standing interest in, but she's not right to say what she says about the embassy. I refer her to the comments that have been made by the ISC, the comments that have been made by the Director Generals of our security services. The arrangement that underpins the Chinese embassy involves the reduction of the diplomatic estate in London from 7 sites down to 1. I hope, when she looks at it in those terms, the Honourable Lady will understand that there are national security advantages from this proposal.
Does Luke Evans?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A Member of Parliament's partner has been accused of spying for China. Now, the Minister's been asked several times, has the Foreign Secretary or the Home Secretary specifically asked and summoned the ambassador to come and explain themselves? If not, why not?
The honourable member, I think, will have heard from my opening remarks that Chinese officials have been démarched both in London and in Beijing. I hope that he will also understand that we are referencing events that happened earlier this morning.
Speaker, as Home Secretary, I delivered the National Security Act largely because of the threat posed by China. Now, if the media reports are true, what will the Minister... Well, does the Minister agree that the perception of conflict of interest, compromise and bias are just as damaging as actual conflict of interest, perception, compromise and bias? And will he reassure the House today that the Labour Party will do everything and take appropriate measures to protect the probity of the investigation and maintain public confidence?
Yeah.
Well, let me say to the Right Honourable Lady that, of course, the government will do everything to ensure that the counter-terrorism police, the intelligence agencies, have whatever they need to conduct this investigation. And as she will understand from her time as Home Secretary, that is conducted independently of government. It's not for the Security Minister or for the Home Secretary or for any minister for that matter to start getting involved in the business of an investigation. That would not be appropriate, and I hope that she would acknowledge that. Let me just say something positive to her, because she was Home Secretary when the National Security Act was introduced in 2023. This is a vital piece of legislation. This is making a real difference to our ability to counter those who would seek to do us harm. It is a valuable tool in our armoury, but where there is a view that we need to add more tools to that armoury, we will definitely do so.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The name of the Labour Member of Parliament whose husband has been arrested is widely circulating via the media. I don't intend to name that Member of Parliament, but if the reports are true, that Member of Parliament sits on a select committee that would have information which is sensitive, maybe even secret, and indeed, through totally legitimate means, has visited a number of our defence sites across the country. Has there been, and will there be, an urgent review of what sensitive information that Member of Parliament might have been party to? And, at the appropriate juncture, would he release any correspondence between his department and that Member of Parliament around things like the Chinese embassy and other matters relating to China?
Well, Mr. Speaker, on the honourable gentleman's first point, he will understand that membership of a select committee is not a matter for government, but I know that Mr. Speaker will have heard the point that he has made, as have I. In terms of his second point, he will understand that we're dealing with events that took place a couple of hours ago. I haven't seen what is being reported online because I've obviously been here, but I will give consideration to the matter that is raised.
Oh, Jim.
Still one to go, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much. Can I thank the Minister very much for his answers? Nobody in this House doubts the Minister's commitment to find the answers, to ensure that the truth is out and that justice is done, and I thank him for that, and everybody respects that. I've highlighted when my constituents raised surveillance by the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, in my constituency. I've highlighted when the APPG for Freedom of Religious Belief that I chair, our website was hacked and information removed that highlighted human rights abuses and persecution in China. The Minister's outlined very clearly what's going to happen here in the mainland. In Northern Ireland, we have a porous border with the Republic of Ireland. CCP authorities regularly cross the border going north and south, little or no checks. The CCP activities in the Republic of Ireland has to be watched. What discussions has the Minister had to ensure that the Republic of Ireland government and the Garda Síochána collectively work to ensure and thwart the CCP wherever they are, and especially in Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland? Thank you.
Well, Madam Deputy Speaker, I'm grateful to the honourable member, as I always am, and I'm grateful to him for his words about our commitment to these matters. I know he shares that commitment, and I know that he has been a tireless champion for the freedom of those to practice their religion. He's raised, I think, some very important points. I think he will understand if I want to reflect on them more closely. But I can say to him that we do have a very close working relationship with the Republic of Ireland. But I'll look carefully at what he said and get back to him.
That is the end of the statement. Point of order, David.